8th grade. I'm not really sure what's happening today. I've tried making this video 3 times already, so I'm just going to jump right into the lesson in case it cuts me off again. So you're in day 3 of week 6. Today is April 29th. Okay, you have a warm-up where we are reviewing exactly what we did yesterday. When 2 equations are in standard form, how do you solve for the solution? You look for the equation that has a variable that's almost by itself. In this case, it looks like it's the first one because y is almost isolated. So we would inverse the 5x to get y by itself, and now we have y equals 5x minus 2. You then rewrite your system with that simplified equation and then the other equation that you didn't touch, and we substitute that value for y into the other equation as shown here. Then you continue using the steps that we've already gone through multiple times. Distribute, combine, inverse, inverse. You'll see our solution for x is 0. Pick one of the 3 equations you have from the original system, solve for the value of y, and then write your solution as x comma y. Okay? Today we are focusing on writing systems of equations represented in word problems when both of the equations are in standard form. Now in these problems, most cases, one of your equation will be talking about the amount or the quantity. The other equation will be talking about the cost of the items. This is the most common situation when it comes to these types of word problems. Sometimes one of your equation will be representing a person or an event, and the other equation will be representing a person or event. This isn't as common, but sometimes the problem might be talking about like 2 different families, and this equation would represent the Johnsons, and this equation would represent the Smiths. Something like that. But this is the most common when you have one that represents the amount and one that represents the cost. Okay, so let's dive into the first question so you can see what that looks like. So we have a question about the spring musical. Tickets were sold last year. There were student tickets for $2 and adult tickets for $5. Last year, the school sold a total of 456 tickets and for a total of $1,263. The question says, how many of each ticket did the school sell? So step 1, we want to identify our variables. What are the 2 things we are looking for? So the 2 things we are looking for in this problem would be how many student tickets, how many adult tickets, and those are going to be our variables. So I'm going to use x for student since they didn't give us a specific variable to use. And then I'm going to use y for adult. So that's step 1. You always want to write in your work what are your variables that you're using and what do they represent. Okay? Step 2, we want to write our system. So here is where that little reminder and in most cases thing comes up. So this is just showing our 2 variables. So now we want to write our system. So to write your system, one equation is going to be about the amount of tickets. And in the problem, they told us that there was a total of 456 tickets sold. Well, if there was a total of 456 tickets sold, that's a combination of student and adult tickets. So that first equation would be there were some student tickets sold, there were some adult tickets sold for a total of 456. Okay, that's going to be our first equation, which is about the amount of tickets. Some students, some adult, for a total of 456. Okay, our second equation is going to be about the cost. So now I made in red everything that had to do with the cost. So student tickets were $2 for every student ticket. So that's going to be 2 times x, 2x for the student ticket cost. Adults were $5, so we would write that as plus 5 times y because it would be $5 for every adult ticket sold. And then it would equal the total amount that they earned on the tickets, which was 1,263. So notice the top equation is about the amount of the tickets, and then the bottom equation is about the cost. Okay? So I'm going to add that to my board. So we have 2x, $2 per student, plus 5y, $5 per adult for a total of $12.63. Okay, so we identify our variables, we write our system, and now we just solve. This is what we did yesterday, so everyone should be comfortable solving these types of systems. I'm going to rewrite my system here. X plus y equals 456. 2x plus 5y equals 1263. I notice that they are both in standard form, so I'm going to pick the top equation because I think it'll be easy to isolate y. So I'm going to rewrite that equation right here. And I want to get y by itself, so I'm going to subtract x from both sides. I'm going to get y equals negative x plus 456. Okay, so now y has been isolated. I'm going to rewrite that right here just so I have it. And then what I want to do is now take this, since this is what y equals, I'm going to plug it in for y in my equation that I have not touched. I'm going to put it in place of y there. So that new equation would look like 2x plus 5 times negative x plus 456 equals 1263. Okay, very long equation, but nothing we can't handle. Okay, so again, I took my system, I looked to see which one would be easier to isolate one of the variables. It was obviously my top. I inversed the x to isolate y. I then took what y equals and substituted in place of y. So now we have to distribute, combine, inverse, inverse. I'll model that for you here. So we would get 2x minus 5x because it's 5 times negative x, and then 5 times 456 is 2,280 equals 1263. Okay, once we distribute, we combine our like terms, 2x and negative 5x. 2x and negative 5x will give me negative 3x plus 2,280 equals 1263. Okay, I'm going to do my inverse, so I'm going to subtract 2,280 from both sides. Okay, I'm just going to slide this up because I'm running out of room. These would cancel. I'll be left with negative 3x equals negative 1,017. And then I would divide by negative 3. And my answer will be x equals 339. Now this answer, as I was working, I kind of got a little concerned at first because I noticed I was having negatives. And if we remember, my variable x was talking about student tickets. So I knew my answer couldn't be a negative value because remember, we're relating this to the real world now. But in the end, my answer did come out positive. So that makes sense to me so far. So I'm going to now continue. Okay, so I now know that x, the student tickets, was 339. I now go back and pick the easier of the equations. So I'm going to pick the top one, x plus y equals 456. And I'm going to plug in what we just solved for x. So x was 339. And to figure out what y is, I'm going to subtract 339 from both sides. Okay, and we will get y equals 117. Okay, so we have that x is 339, y is 117. As a solution, we're going to write that as 339, comma 117. Right? And then what we need to do for our final step is relate this solution back to the problem. So that's going to be your last and final step of this entire process. Okay? You're going to relate it back. So what does this 339 mean? And what does this 117 mean? That means that there were 339 student tickets. I'm going to abbreviate because I'm running out of room. And 117 adult. Okay. A quick check just to make sure that you know that this answer makes sense. I would take 339 and 117 and make sure that they add to 456. I also would check that if I multiply the student tickets by $2, right, and the adult tickets by $5, that it also adds to $12.63. That's always like a good way to just check to make sure your answer is correct, okay? So it is a little tedious, but everything I modeled for you is right here. They're all on the slides. I just wanted to walk you through one so that you can really see how it plays out. Here are your steps, exactly what I modeled for you, a little bit more detailed. I think they're very helpful when solving these types of problems. The next question is actually from the August 2019 Regents, and it's the same thing I just did. The only thing is they want you to use A for one of your variables and D for the other. So when they do that, just think of A as X and D as Y. That's all. Even when you write your equations, you're still going to have them with A and D, but they're the same as if they were X and Y. So I don't want you to get confused on that. Nothing changes. It's just they're using other letters. For this problem, again, the first equation was about the amount of chickens. This problem was about chickens. And the second equation was about the cost. And then the rest of it, you guys know how to do. You've already done this. You did this yesterday. So this is the real new part to your understanding. Being able to identify what the variables are in the problem, and then also being able to write the system. Because if you can't write the system, then you won't be able to solve the solution. So please keep in mind that this is a common thing that will keep happening in your systems. One will be about the amount, one will be about the cost, okay? And you'll see that keep happening for everyone. Like here's another example, right? It's about a fair. Again, you have like how many, what the admission fee was for children and adults. So right there, there's your variables. And then again, one equation is about the amount of people, and then the other equation is about the cost. Okay, so please go through these. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I know that there are multiple steps involved, but we are just building on steps that you already mastered. So really the only steps that are different are steps 1 and 2, identifying the variables, writing the system, and then step 11, which is relating it back to the problem. Okay, so your you-do is a Google Doc. It is a question very similar to the 3 that are modeled in the lesson. I'm going to get out of this to just show you what that looks like. So it's right here. You must show your work for this. If the work is not included, then you will not receive full credit. So the task is written right here. I remind you that you have those 11 steps from the lesson to help you. Your problem is in bold, and then you have a nice little organizer to keep your work, you know, in order of how we solved the modeled examples in the lesson. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. Please reach out to me again. Like I said, if you have any questions, I'm happy to help you in any way I can. And I hope that you all are staying safe. Remember that you do have an Evidence of Mastery on Friday, so I hope that you all are preparing for that as well. Take care.